On the phone line, 35th District Representative Drew MacEwen. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
I am well, and good seeing you there on the House floor doing the people's business. It was kind of fun to be there yesterday and see you and Representative Griffey.
Yeah, good to see you, and thanks for coming down. I'll tell you, it feels like it was a week ago. We were on the floor till after 1 a.m. this morning.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, you left early.
Well, I did. I left a little a
little early.
My parking pass was about up. I got to get out of there. What did you guys, why were you there so late? What was going on?
Oh, sowing hate and discontent.
Oh, sure. I'm sure.
No, I'm a little punchy this morning. We kind of had a drawn-up battle here with the other side of the aisle last night, and it dragged on. And what made this go even longer last night was a bill that they did that, and if you'll forgive me, I'm little cobwebs here in the head this morning.
Uh-huh.
That's everything. So, but basically, what it is, so right now, as you know, people that are not able to bear their own children can get surrogate mothers,
Mm-hmm.
and have children through that method. And it's always been that one could pay reasonable expenses that are incurred for the mother that is carrying the child. And the bill last night really just kind of tore at my moral fabric, as it did a lot of other people. And it commercializes it now, and it's essentially allowed now that you can pay enormous amounts of money to commercialize surrogate mothers. And that just tears at my moral fabric, goes against a lot of things, as it did for all of us. And so we drug that debate out, and as you know, you have to be here to vote, and it became obvious on the floor last night that a good portion of the majority party was not on the floor. And in the House, we vote electronically. So if somebody has stepped off into the wings, we'll typically press their button and make their vote, and that's accepted here. But it was obvious that there was a large number of them that weren't in the immediate vicinity, and so we called for an oral roll call, just like the Senate does on all of its bills, and so it actually requires the members to be there. And we felt that this bill was that important. Mm-hmm. It had moral consequences, and you can agree or disagree with the legislation, but it was monumental legislation, and felt strong enough that you need to be here and make that voice heard. And so they had to rouse members up, and that delayed things for a little while to get everybody there, because obviously you cannot voice vote for somebody else. And so that caused a bit of a delay, and that's where the sowing hate and discontent comes in here this morning. The majority party is not too happy with the House Republican caucus, but again, we felt it was a moral ground to stake a flag on and say, this is important, and you might disagree with where our position is, but you need to be here to vote it. And so we made that happen, and today will be interesting. Not going to be a lot of smiling faces today from lack of sleep and other items. So
let me get this straight. What you're saying is, and I can kind of see if somebody says, I am unable to have kids, will you do this for me? And then I'll help provide prenatal vitamins,
right,
clothes and things like that as the mother, grows the child. But this is allowing people to then say, hey, choose me, I'll have your kid, it'll cost you this, or something like that?
Yeah. Hey, ma'am, I'll pay you $2 million to carry this plus your expenses. And I mean, at its core, that's what this has come down to. And we offered a number of amendments to offer protections for people that do not speak English as a first language.
Mm-hmm.
We've created now a system where people with the means have all the advantage, frankly, to take advantage of people that have lesser means and maybe are not as in strong of a position to negotiate really what is happening with them and what their rights are. And and it's ironic because the majority party all the time introduces legislation mandating interpreter services, mandating legal services, etc., for minority populations on the auspice that they don't maybe have a full comprehension of our legal system, et cetera. But then when it comes to this, something that is at its very moral fabric, in my opinion, a grave issue here. They turned around and said, "Oh no, not in this instance. No, we're not going to have any of that." And I think we had 17 amendments last night, trying to put in some sideboard, some protection, and it just the hypocrisy of what went down last night to me is just appalling. And I empathize with people that are in this situation. I know some folks. I know people that have adopted. I understand the surrogacy, and I have no problem with somebody paying for the medical expenses and the care that needs to go into that.
Mm-hmm.
But now we have created this system that has monetized it to a different level, and I think it is ripe to be taken advantage of, and people to be taken advantage of, and that's just wrong.
Where did this even come from?
I'm not sure. I'm really not. It kind of took me by surprise because it didn't come before any of the committees that I stand on or that I sit on. I think it came through the Judiciary Committee. So I became aware of it early yesterday. This often happens. I mean, we've got 5,000 bills moving through the system here at any given time, and it just, so if it doesn't come before a member, they often aren't aware of it until it's close to being voted on. And so I'm not sure what the genesis was, though, of the subject itself, but we have it now, and we'll see what happens here.
Interesting, weird. That's a strange one.
Like I said, it's the hypocrisy that was put on last night just appalls me, frankly, with this issue. But we'll move on here, and it's been a hotbed down here, needless to say, as I'm sure you're well aware.
For sure.
And let's just, if you don't mind, let's just dive into that and the public records request and the media. And I would exclude you from this statement, Jeff, because you have not, to my knowledge, made any. But the media is in quite a tizzy over this. Has certainly riled up the people, and that's their right to do so. But they've also put out a lot of misinformation on this Public Records Act, and I will say the process was not good. That criticism is completely fair. It was jammed through, and not a lot of input. That criticism I completely agree with, and it is fully warranted. But what is lost in all this is what the bill really does, and it expands the public records that are available from the legislature. And why the media, particularly the Seattle Times and the various news outlets from our major metropolitan area are upset is because this ends their lawsuit. This expands the disclosure of our calendars, which I've already done. They've always asked for that, and previously that wasn't disclosable. Now it is. Now required to provide all communications that are had with lobbyists. Previously that was not disclosable. Now it is. Also, this now releases all final disciplinary actions that are taken. That was not disclosable. Now it is. What is not disclosable, and I will defend this, is communications with constituents. And I'm a big believer in this because we are oftentimes the last place that people turn to out of desperation, and then it's often dealing with very, very serious and legal issues, and oftentimes involving minor children, and issues involving state agencies, or issues that are going through the judiciary process. I've had people contact my office with horrible tales of domestic violence, and they're seeking help. I don't really think that their name should get plastered in the paper that Representative MacEwen met with so-and-so whose spouse, beat them to a pulp last night. I don't think that should be public.
Mm-hmm.
The Seattle Times disagrees with them with that. Well, I'm going to disagree with them on that. And, but this morning I'm watching the King 5 News, and it astounds me. Their lead on this was state lawmakers voted to seal their records from you. That's just completely inaccurate. And further, what we're also seeing going on now, and this happened at my office yesterday, a lady calls claiming to be a constituent, and I will say she may very well be, but very upset about this, demanding answers. She's speaking with my aide. I did not take the call. I was on the House floor, and so my aide gets her email, her personal email, and then so that I could respond to her. Hangs up, realizes that she didn't have her name, so has the caller ID, calls it back. Guess where that number came from? The Seattle Times.
Really?
I I highly doubt, while it is possible, I highly doubt, though, that it was a constituent that happened to be working at the Seattle Times. And if it was, maybe it's the Seattle Times policy to allow for their employees to advocate on legislation on company time, and that's their private business. But I just tend to doubt it.
Yeah, wow, interesting.
And this is what, and so I understand people's frustration. Again, the criticism of the process and how this went down is completely warranted. I completely agree. We could have handled that better. We were under the clock because of the judge's ruling, and we adjourned next week. So we didn't. The time frame wasn't there. If this were a long session, I think this process would have been different. But we needed to address the ruling. And the thing that the judge said in the ruling is, if you disagree with my interpretation, you're the lawmakers, change the law. And so we did, and we're following what he had said, and there was a number of flaws in his ruling that were addressed in this, but I just want to get that out there, and that I'm all for open and transparency. I've been disclosing my calendar since day one, and don't have any problem with that. But I'm going to protect constituents and their personal issues, and this bill just solidifies that. And Seattle Times disagrees, well, so be it.
Seems like the governor, regardless of what he does, if he decides to veto this, and he's got, I think, another couple days to look at this, there are the majorities in both chambers, so it could be overridden, and that then follows another. Will there have to be another vote taken?
Yeah, so he's currently out of state,
right.
Which, I mean, candidly, it's probably convenient for him, and I don't mean that as a criticism of him. It just, it's given this situation, it's the way our law is, which is actually the reverse of what the how federal legislation works, where things have a pocket veto. In our state, if the governor doesn't sign, it actually becomes law, and that's the reverse of what happens at the federal level. Mm-hmm. So once we deliver a bill to the governor, he has 5 days after that delivery to take action, and if he does not take action, the bill automatically becomes law. That fifth day will end at midnight tomorrow. By all accounts, and I was not privy to this, but it's my understanding that it is his agreement with the leadership of the four caucuses that he would sign the bill. But I think he'd also be living up to his agreement if he didn't sign it and allowed it to become law. But yes, if he vetoes it, there is a veto-proof majority in both the Senate and the House, and it would come back and for an override. And if both chambers overrode the veto, it would instantly become law. But I think, again, all indications are that come midnight tomorrow, it will be law by virtue of him not vetoing it.
35th District Representative Drew MacEwen, always nice talking with you, Drew, and got just about, a week left in this thing.
Let's hope so.
Fingers crossed. All right, buddy.
Jeff.
Thank you. Have a good one.